So this is an interesting hand I'd like to cover. Played tonight. Basically, it's a 1-3 game. I opened with 9-10 of spades in late position to $15. The button called and everyone else folded. This particular player I know is capable of bluffing. Actually, a pretty decent player in the player pool compared to most of the players. The flop comes queen of spades, eight of spades, six of hearts. It gives me a disguised double belly buster. Seven or a jack gives me a straight, as well as a flush draw. So I'm loving my equity here, heads up. So I end up betting $20. And surprisingly, he ends up making it $85. So I'm thinking, well, you know, I got too much. I don't know. I thought about rejamming because I could honestly rejam against whatever he has. I mean, I'm not even that far behind a set. I'm ahead of any queen, but I decided to just call. So the turn was the two of clubs, which really didn't change anything. I thought at this point, since he took aggression on the flop, I mean, it's possible he has a set. I mean, I'm never folding here, but kind of curious about his sizing. I mean, if he overbet jams like the turn or something, I can actually consider folding, maybe putting him on something crazy like a set of sixes or something. Who knows? But I'd have to think about whether or not I have equity. I have equity against a pot size bet, obviously. But anyway, I checked and he ended up checking back, so I didn't expect that. But so I went check check. So the river is a seven of spades, giving me a straight and a flush. I'm not really sure what to do here. I think, well, he did show aggression on the flop. Maybe he has a queen that he slowed down on when I called the flop. Um, Not really sure. I ended up betting the pot was about $200. So I ended up betting only 75. I thought, well, I'll bet small because the obvious flush came in, and maybe I can get looked up by something like a queen. Um, a straight did come in. Maybe he hit a straight. So I decided to bet something smaller where I thought he can call something besides a flush. So that's the reason I chose that bet sizing, just to basically be called by worse. But surprisingly, he ended up moving all in. He jammed for $500. That's about what I had behind. And I had to really tank and think a while. Um, some guy, I don't know if he was joking or if he was serious. He's not a good player, so maybe he was serious. But he's like, oh, that was a snap call. How do you think about that? Yeah, okay. Think about the action here. The action was he raised big on the flop, he checked back the turn, and he raised big on the river. What hands is he raising big on the flop um, that he'd raise on the river? The most obvious thing was something like the nut flush draw. I could see someone raising with a hand like ace five of spades that he's like, oh, I have the nut flush draw. Maybe I can get him off it, so I'm going to raise. And then I call, and then he slows down, decides to see a free card on the turn because he checked back. And then the river, I bet out, and he's like, okay, I got the nuts. I'm going to jam and hopefully get looked up by a lower flush. So I really thought he had a higher flush. The nut flush makes perfect sense here. I'm trying to think of what other hands he could have. He would not do this with a lower flush. I think he would just call. I don't think he would overvalue his hand like that. Um, I don't think he would do this with a straight when the obvious flush came in. The only hand I thought of either was A, the nut flush, or B, something like ace queen with the ace of spades, ace eight with the ace of spades, something along those lines. Maybe something like um, something that had the ace of spades blocker. This guy is a good enough player where I know he's capable of doing something like that, turning something like the ace of spades X into a blocker and using that blocker to represent the nut flush, knowing that I can't have the nut flush. That's the only thing I could really think of that he would have. The other thing is I bet small. Now I bet small on purpose as a block bet to get called by worse, but some people interpret that as weakness, like he's just trying to name a price. Maybe he was thinking that, he's trying to name a price. He's block betting so that, he doesn't have to face something bigger. Sometimes when you bet small, people interpret that as weakness and they'll jump on it. It kind of makes them want to bluff on you. So for those reasons, and because I know this guy's capable, I had a hard time calling, but I ended up calling. And he has seven of hearts, nine of hearts. So I made a good call. So apparently he raised on the flop with the open ender. Yeah, okay, I can see it. The problem is that, when you raise with open enders, if a flush comes in, I guess he was probably thinking that he can turn around and represent the flush if it comes in. That's kind of a common standard play to be chasing a straight draw and then represent flush draw when it comes in, which is a really good play because a lot of people instantly see the flush more than they see the open ender. So um, I can see him doing that. The problem is when I bet out small, I guess maybe he took my smaller bet as trying to get a price with the queen. And then so he thought he'd rep the flush. Um, but I guess the issue is I could have a flush. I mean, I guess he didn't think I would have a flush here, betting a flush draw and then calling the raise. But I mean, obviously could. Um, I actually had more than a flush. I had a monster draw. But really interesting, really good bluff by him. I mean, I really thought about it. I mean, if I don't have a flush there, um, I don't think I'd probably bet the river. I'd probably check, evaluate, and decide if I want to call against him. But yeah, so that's the hand basically. I thought it was a hell of a bluff by him. It really put me in a spot. I was surprised to see he didn't have the ace of spades blocker. I think that would have been a better play by him if he had something like anything with the ace of spades, where he knows that I couldn't have the nut flush. I think it might be a little better, but it was a hell of a bluff by him. Really was. It really put me to the test and put me in a pickle. And I really thought about it. I guess he took my smaller size as weakness, but it was not an easy call. And especially for my stack, and my night wasn't going very well. And this kind of helped reboot and turn my night around to having a winning session. So anyway, leave comments below. Tell me what you think. I thought this was a interesting hand. You don't see people really turn hands into bluffs like this, especially running big bluffs, typically in these lower stakes games. But this guy's definitely capable. I saw a little bit of that tonight, which was pretty interesting. People are turning hands into bluffs, which is not really something you see a whole lot of. But yeah, props to Cam. I think he did it. I think he put me to the test for sure. Um, so anyway, comment below. I thought it was a pretty interesting hand I ran into tonight.